السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بارك الله فيكم. إن شاء الله this is the last review session in الروض المربع إن شاء الله, before the test إن شاء الله. And as mentioned before, inshallah, it's important to I guess tests are just challenging our knowledge, so that it makes us be able, inshallah ta'ala, to study in the right way. So some questions, inshallah ta'ala, will be basically putting the statements only in Arabic and asking to explain what is meant by it, or what's the mas'ala, or what's the ruling, what's the hukm, for example, that is for that. So it's more of understanding the matn than necessarily memorizing what's the rulings are. Even though this is going to be there, inshallah, but it's very important at that stage that we understand the matn, the words, and what does it mean, and what's basically the to get familiar with the words of the fuqaha, or the people of knowledge in this subject, inshallah. So any questions or anything that is not clear in any of the statements? We're supposed to talk the conditions of the salah, I believe. So if we pass the chapter of the adhan, unless you have any questions, then shurut al-salah, the shurut of the salah, the conditions of the salah, and the definition of a shart. And the definition of the shart is just some of the differences between a shart and other than a shart, which is the condition. And these conditions that are mentioned in the book, the first one is, or as it says here, Islam al-aql wa-tamiz, and this is in every ibadah. Al-waqt, and there are many things mentioned here. And then al-tahara min al-hadath, the purification. Then the different times of the salawat. فوقت الظهر من الزوال إلى مساواة الشيء فيئه. And remember that مساواة الشيء بعد الظل. So if you try to do this practically, it is not exactly equal to the shade of the object, but you have to subtract the shade that stays at the time of zawal. Okay, I have 197 before I go further. 197. نعم، أو دفعة واحدة. Here وإذا قام بهما من يحصل به الإعلام غالبا. This is al-adhan is one of the sha'air of al-Islam, the parent ones, and this is in the Kitab al-Jihad, which makes it very obvious whether the place is Muslims or not. So أجزاء عن الكل وإن كان واحدة. So it's وإلا زيد بقدر الحاجة كل واحد في جانب أو دفعة واحدة بمكان واحد. This is what the subject, or the object, or the objectiveness of the adhan is, for people to know the time of the salah started. So and this is what he says, من يحصل به الإعلام غالبا, as far as how far it reaches. So if it's one adhan, then it's sufficient if it reaches everyone. وإلا زيد بقدر الحاجة, or to have more than one adhan according to the need. This is with regards to one place. So but of course every masjid should have their own adhan. كل واحد في جانب, each one in a corner, so that everyone would hear. أو دفعة واحدة بمكان واحد, or دفعة واحدة, that means more than one person is making adhan in the same spot. So دفعة, الدفعة is group. It comes from دفعة, that means something is pushed. So دفعة واحدة, that means one push, but here it's used for the bundle, or something that is all at once. So and this is instead of steps instead of breaking it down to pieces just to make it one time. So in either multiple adhans or one adhan in one spot by many people so that the voice would reach. ويقيم أحدهم, and one of them would make إقامة. So this is why, because the point of the adhan is for people to hear. So if one person is not going to do the job, then group of them can make adhan. Uh, then the times of the salah and the different times and وقت الاختيار, وقت الضرورة, this is for عصر and for عشاء. طيب and when متى تدرك وتدرك الصلاة بتكبيرة الإحرام في وقتها. الإدراك is for someone to make it for the صلاة. طيب ومسألة الشك في دخول الوقت. مسألة دخول الوقت is a condition. دخول الوقت is شرط. So if the شرط didn't happen, then المشروط or the condition what it's for is not valid. So if someone made salah and he realized that it wasn't the time for the salah yet, he has to repeat it. But if he made the salah thinking that it's the time, and then afterwards it was true that it was the time, then of course he does not repeat the salah. And مسألة ويعيد الأعمى العاجز مطلقا إن لم يجد من يقلده. So if someone is blind, is having inability, and he has no way, and he's in doubt, if he doesn't find anyone to follow him, then he has to repeat the salah. This is in the case that he was not sure whether the time started or not. Why? Because there's no way for him to know. طيب, the issue of the cliff, I'm just not sure what to speak about and what's not, because again, it's the point here is really the details of every masala, not the general understanding of things. This is easy, inshallah, if you want to summarize it يعني. And مسألة الترتيب, the order. So if everyone can hear me, hopefully, inshallah, again, I'm specifying the question here is every word clear? Is every word is clear in the conditions of the salah? Every word and every mas'ala. And hopefully, mashallah, everyone also had assuming, inshallah, that everyone was following with the matn, not just a general lecture to listen to, even though, inshallah, there's always benefit. But assuming that everyone read every word and understand every word and every mas'ala, that by itself is a great يعني achievement, inshallah. So let me ask a question if no one have a question. Page 213. So let me ask this question first and then answer your question, inshallah. In page 213, the bottom of it. I'll read it and I'll ask a question. ويكفي ستر عورته. I'm reading both. ويكفي ستر عورته أي عورات الرجل في النفل، وستر عورته مع جميع أحد عاتقيه في الفرض، ولو بما يصف البشرة، لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لا يصلي الرجل في الثوب الواحد ليس على عاتقه منه شيء، يقول الشيخان عن أبي هريرة. فالسؤال here, the question here, if someone is making salah, but one shoulder is covered, the other one is not, does the salah is valid, sufficient or not? هل هذا يكفي أم لا? Just say yes or no. Is it sufficient? نعم طيب ما شاء الله. So that's an easy question. طيب بارك الله فيكم. And if the first one to answer to get the answer correct, that means it's okay. No, not everybody has to answer. ما شاء الله بارك الله فيكم. طيب let's see the question. Page 200. I'm not understanding the sentence وبين الأذان والإقامة. No. Here with regards to الصلاة خير من النوم في أذان الصبح، ويكره في غير أذان الفجر وبين الأذان والإقامة. That means it's makruh to say الصلاة خير من النوم in other than أذان الفجر and between the أذان and the إقامة, because this is a word of the أذان. So even though the word has a meaning to it, الصلاة is better than sleep. So it's not to be used in other time except for the أذان. Of course, if someone, يعني, for example, if someone between the adhan and the iqama, people still not coming to the masjid, and someone would just, go out of the masjid, outside of the masjid, and raise his voice, or maybe everybody around the masjid are Muslims, so he put the microphone on and he says, "As-salatu khayru min al-nawm, as-salatu khayru min al-nawm," like this, trying to wake up people. This is what is meant by that, because it's one of the words of the adhan. And not to be done like this. But if someone, for example, between the adhan and the iqama, he wants to make a sentence that doesn't look like it's part of the adhan, he would wake up someone that is asleep, for example, in the masjid or whatever, and he would say, "Wake up! Indeed, صلاة خير من نومك هذا الذي," like this, but not to use the words of the adhan so that it does not get confused with the adhan. Allah أعلم. Again, I'm talking about the matn here. Uh, and if you want to, for one's personal actions, when till a person, mashallah, gain the knowledge, some of these masail, if we see what our even contemporary scholars had mentioned about it, what's more following the dalil and so on, a person can do that, even though he studied otherwise. And that's all based on the evidences or some of the differences of opinions, inshallah. But with the objective, of course, the ulama, those who, when they follow the sunnah, they understand the principle and the meanings, and sometimes they would differ than the madhab, because this is where the evidence is supported by other madhab or the jumhur and things like this. Isn't khimar the face cover? No. Khimar is not necessarily a face cover. Al-khimar is what's put on the head and it comes down, whether it covers the face or not. And that's why وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيوبِهِنَّ. So the khimar, it comes from covering. So it's definitely covering, but so it depends on what does it cover. This is in general. So if the ayah وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيوبِهِنَّ, let their khimar to come down to cover their al-juyub, the opening of dress. But in the tafsir, of course, and this is where the importance to understand how they practically did it. So when Abdullah ibn Abbas, for example, he said that يُغَطِّينَ وُجُوهَهُنَّ, they cover their faces and they show an eye for them to see the way. So this is how the khimar is, but it's not necessarily in its absolute sense refers to covering the face. I'll read this, inshallah, and tell me what's the ruling before I go to the next question, inshallah. Here in the bottom of page 214. أو صلى في ثوب محرم عليه كمغصوب كله أو بعضه وحرير منسوج بذهب أو فضة إن كان رجلا واجدا غيره وصلى فيه عالما ذاكرا عاد. وكذا إذا صلى في مكان غصب أو صلى في ثوب نجس عاد ولو لعدم غيره. فما الحكم هنا؟ يعني إذا قلت ما حكم من صلى في ثوب محرم عليه، أو ما حكم من صلى في ثوب مغصوب، ما حكم الرجل يصلي في آه، ثوب من ذهب أو فضة إذا كان واجدا غيره. What's the حكم؟ نعم. So here نعم. That means, which is the حكم here in the word أعاد. He has to repeat the صلاة. نعم. أحسنت. And this is an example where this is what is mentioned here. There's another riwayah in the madhab of Imam Ahmad that he has the sin, but the salah is valid. The sin is there. It's haram, of course, but the salah is valid. And this is what many of the ulama are upon. طيب, there's a question. If a woman who stays in um, a little dry discharge on undergarment after she reads Dhuhr but doesn't know when she had the little discharge, does she have to repeat the salah? First of all, if there's two issues here. One is the najasa, and the second thing is the coming out of the discharge. Coming out of a discharge breaks the wudu. So if it's not known when does the when the and it's dry, so if a person is certain in these matters, then of course the ruling is obvious, because things are built on the yaqeen or the certainty. If there is doubt, then it's not to be built actions on it necessarily, especially that, for example, she knows that she had wudu. So she's not sure whether this happened before or after. So the salah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, is valid because of the doubt. But the white discharge is not najis. The white discharge is not najis now. But the discharge itself, the actual coming out of anything as a rule, breaks the wudu. But it's not necessarily the content of it is najis. It doesn't have to be washed before wudu. The white discharge doesn't have to be washed before wudu because it's not najis. But in principle, when something comes out, that means it requires the wudu. Even though this also has difference of opinions, but it's to remove it, of course, and to make wudu. This is to be on the safe side. What's the proper way to define the difference between a shak wa ghalabat al-dhann? Now, there's major difference, because a shak is doubt when the two sides are equally present. The person is not sure whether one thing or the other, like something like 50%. غلبة الظن is something that we act upon غلبة الظن. That means the shara is based on غلبة الظن and not based on yaqeen in many matters. غلبة الظن, that means it's more likely. It's, a person doesn't have to say by Allah, Wallahi, the matter is like this, but it's basically this is what the norm is. So that means one of the two possibilities is heavier. So a shak or the doubt, they're both the same. So that's why if there's a person is not sure whether he is, say for example, have najasa on or not, and he's leaning towards more that it's not, then he base his ruling based on what he's more likely to be the case. But if they're both equally in the same level of as an evidence, then it's shak. Like, for example, غلبة الظن, which is a very obvious example. When someone goes to the bathroom and makes istinja and cleans himself, does he have to have certainty there's no najasa? No, it's based on غلبة الظن. And one of which is if a person uses a tissue or stone or something of that nature, غلبة الظن is that no najasa appears on this tissue. So that means he's clean. There might be najasa there, that it didn't get wiped, but that's what غلبة الظن. So the rulings are to be acted upon based on غلبة الظن, which is you have two tarjih here, two ways to make a ruling, and a person is leaning towards one and not the other. And sometimes, as we said here in this case, in that example that I mentioned, it takes the position of the yaqeen, takes the position of certainty, because that's what the Shara is commanded us to be upon. Plus, if someone is afflicted with lots of or frequent shak, doubt, that means he has to overlook it, because that's waswas. طيب, I'll give one last example, inshallah, because I know that Isha time is close. I'll read this, inshallah, and see if you understand. طيب, what's the proper way to define طيب, page 230. طيب, I'll read this, inshallah, and see if you understand it. And then we'll take the question at 230, inshallah. وإن كانت النجاسة بطرف مصلى متصل صحت الصلاة على الطاهر ولو تحرك النجس بحركته، وكذا لو كان تحت قدمه حبل مشدود في نجاسة وما يصلي عليه منه طاهر، إن لم يكن متعلقا به بيده أو وسطه بحيث ينجر معه بمشيه فلا تصح، لأنه مستتبع لها فهو كحاملها. وإن كان سفينة كبيرة أو حيوانا كبيرا لا يقدر على جره، إذا استعصى عليه صحت، لأنه ليس بمستتبع لها. What's the thing that makes the matter here clear, whether it invalidates the salah or not, when a najasa is not on the person but is attached or connected? What makes the difference here between someone praying on something that is pure, but it's attached to something najis and it moves every time he makes sujood, for example, but he's not praying on it, he's praying on something pure, versus that something that is attached to the person, and if he moves, it moves with him. Carrying, نعم. If najasa can move when person moves, then not necessarily. If the najasa moves when the person moves, as the example of he has the prayer garment or the mat, he prays on a prayer mat, for example, and this mat is attached to something that is najis. When he makes sujood, when that mat moves, the najis moves with it. So the salah is valid. He's praying on something pure, unless the najis is wrapped around his wrist, for example, a rope that is attached to something najis. He's not carrying it, but he has a rope around his waist or around his wrist, and this rope, 1 meter, 5 foot away, is attached to something najis. So when he makes ruku' and sujood, it moves with him. If the najasa follows his movement, then it's invalid. Follows his movement because the word here that is used, بمستتبع لها. Al-hamil is obvious. Carrying a najasa, this is, yes, invalidates the salah. And comes in the same ruling of al-hamil if it's mustatbi' lah. That means it follows him. So not necessarily following the movement. So if it's because it's attached to him. So it's more of something that is attached to the person. Barakallahu fiqh. So it's all about defining what's hamil, what's carrying means. So 230. Yeah. 2:30. حيثما إذا كان. No. No. For the first again, so even if very heavy najasa attached to rope to one praying, it's not sahih. No, he said if it's like a ship or something like this, then it's too much, too difficult for a person to move, then it's sahih. If it's, something that is very difficult to move now. So I see here, حيثما توجهت به. Is that's the part that إذا كان جهة. I'm not sure which where is it إذا كان جهة. Which line you're referring to? The second line. جهة معينة. So again, anyway, so this is for the متنفل, the one that is praying nafl, and he's praying راكب, he's riding سائر, and it's moving. Not someone that is already established in a place. في سفر, in traveling. All of these conditions for the salah on the dabba to be valid, on the moving object to be valid. سفر يصير إذا كان يقصد جهة معينة. If the safar, if the traveling is intended for a specific destination. So the reason why he mentioned إذا كان يقصد جهة معينة, to avoid someone just wandering around. Someone might just, he feel depressed, so he takes his car and he start driving, and he, in a traveling distance. So to avoid, as the ulama they say, al-abath, to avoid just playing with the rulings of the deen. So and to avoid these things that is nonsense. So this is إذا كان يقصد جهة معينة. Someone is traveling, going from one city to the other, but just someone is wandering around like this. According to what's mentioned here, is not sufficient for a person to make salat nafila while riding without facing al-Qibla. I hope it's clear, inshallah. Oh, I'm sorry. So if I have missed this question, I found out that my clothes had najas after I prayed salah. Do I need to repeat the salah? No, if you don't have certainty of when the najasa was. Actually, if the najasa is on the clothes and you're not aware of it before the salah, then the salah is valid. So the answer is not to repeat the salah. طيب, I'll stop here inshallah because the salah is very close. طيب, barakallahu fikum, and if you have any questions, send me also inshallah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who learn inshallah and benefit from it inshallah. barakallahu fikum, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.